The NBA Summer League is now officially over, and that means that we are entering the NBA's dead period. So, what better time to go over the biggest mock drafts of the summer than right now? There was one just proposed the other day by Bleacher Report that involved the Orlando Magic with the Cleveland Cavaliers. We're going to get into if it works for either of those teams. But first, guys, if you're watching this video, you're more than likely not subscribed to the channel. So join the 3.5%. You already know the drill. It's the best and easiest way to support the channel at Magic Digest here. We're trying to build a community, so we would love for you guys to join. Now, let's get into the mock trade that's got everybody up in arms. It is the Orlando Magic are going to receive Darius Garland and Jalen Tyson, and they're going to go send over Jalen Suggs, Wendell Carter Jr., and Cole Anthony. So the idea behind this mock trade is that Paolo Banchero has said, he's been outspoken, he said this to Ben Golliver of the Washington Post, I would rather be more of an offensive hub than the point guard, if that makes sense, in regards to if the team needs a true point guard or somebody who can orchestrate the offense. Well, so he's made it known that he'd obviously like a more established table setter. Now, that could be Jalen Suggs. We obviously know the Orlando Magic are going to put him in that position in the upcoming season, but he's said that. And then obviously they signed KCP, but they weren't able to get a big fish in free agency. They kind of stayed put and re-signed a lot of the guys, and the guys that they did sign on top of KCP are going to be further down the bench. So with the KCP signing not exactly filling all the needs that the Orlando Magic have, and with Paolo Banchero saying, hey, I would like a more established point guard at least eventually, and maybe Jalen Suggs turns into that. With those two things, there comes an outsider or a national media opinion that this team is going to try to make a move to get a point guard like a guy like Darius Garland. Now, we'll get into whether or not I think this is even possible or feasible, or either of these teams want to do this, but we're just going to continue to talk about whether or not that this is something that teams want to do, or this would be something that people would, I could see either of them doing. I think when we talk about Darius Garland, he's 24 years old, 21 points per game, 8 assists, 40% from 3 over the last 3 seasons. I could see him fitting kind of with the Orlando Magic. I don't think he really matches some of their identity, but I could see him actually playing and distributing and being that facilitator, and I kind of see the vision that this mock trade has. Another thing that it mentioned was the starting five. Just simply the starting five, when you look at it, is Garland, KCP, Franz, Banchero, and Jonathan Isaac. That's a high-level starting five. That is the starting five that will compete with a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference. Now, it does mention the bench. Anthony Black, Mo Wagner, Gary Harris, Jet Howard, Tristan Da Silva, and obviously Tyson, who would also be in this trade. I'm looking at a couple of those names. I don't know how much Gary Harris is going to be involved in the coming years. Tristan Da Silva, obviously he's a rookie. We like how he's played, but still some stuff that needs to be figured out. Like, we need to know if he's for real. And then Anthony Black and Jet Howard, decent summer league performances. Would have liked a little bit more to see a little bit more of Anthony Black, but I think that they've certainly checked a few boxes that they're NBA players. But are they role players on the championship team? I mean, we'll hope so. But when I look at kind of that roster, I do see the impact that Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony, and Wendell Carter Jr. being shipped out has on that roster. But I do see the vision, and I kind of see and understand where he's coming from. Now, is this something that is at all possible or feasible, something that we would want to happen? Well, the first thing that we're going to have to start with is Jalen Suggs. Now, if you haven't been within the circle of Orlando Magic basketball, one of the best writers and minds around the team is Philip Rossman-Reich over at Orlando Magic Daily. And I think he said it really, really well about Jalen Suggs being involved in a trade like this. And he said, especially seeing Suggs' name in a mock trade just doesn't feel right. Suggs is the heart and soul of the Magic's defensive identity and is still incredibly young. He can still grow as a point guard. It just doesn't seem like the Magic would entertain the idea of moving Suggs before giving him a chance to prove himself as a starting point guard. This makes a lot of sense. I mean, we're talking about a guy who could get a potential $30 million a year extension and could even be, a little bit more than that. Who knows? I just talked about this the other day about how a lot of Orlando Magic fans think that he should get paid 5 years, $150 million. You're not going to trade that guy. If he's going to be that good, then you're going to give him a shot at least at the very start of the year. Maybe we can come right around again during the trade deadline and say, hey, WCJ is could get traded. We've been talking about it for a while now, since like the middle of last season, and Jalen Suggs isn't the point guard of the future. Maybe we go out there, get a point guard, I'll buy that. But I don't think that that's going to be the case as of right now. Now, there are some things that were slightly underwhelming about Jalen Suggs last year, especially like the points per game. And obviously, the assists are lower than 3. You're going to want to see that number go up just simply in the stat sheet. But you just can't give up on him right now. And as a guy who's all defensive second team, you're thinking that he can be one of the best defenders, or he obviously already is one of the best defenders in the league, but you're trying to say, like, he's going to be one of the best defenders in the NBA for 5 years, for an extended period of time. And he's going to really help a lot of the burden, or really help take off a lot of the burden on guys like Banchero and Franz, who, aren't exactly, or they are decent defenders, certainly wing players, but they're not going to, like, lock down the other team's best player. You have your perimeter guys who are out there doing the heavy lifting. So I don't really see Jalen Suggs being a part of a lot of trades. But obviously there are a couple other players involved in this trade. Cole Anthony being one. Cole Anthony just signed a 3-year, $39 million deal last year with us. He is on a very good contract, I'd say. As a guy who's probably one of the better role players coming off the bench, one of the better scorers, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's not an important piece to this team. And obviously being on what I see as a team-friendly deal, I think that you can make an argument both ways. Sure, he's on a team-friendly deal, so it's enticing for other teams to make a move for him. But also, I think at the same time, you want to keep that because you're starting to pay a lot of your young guys, and you're running out of cap very quickly, a lot quicker than people might want to think. So why not keep a guy down who's getting paid what I feel like is a little bit less than what he could probably earn out on the open market. But I think in a trade like this, to get a point guard, he probably would have to give up Cole Anthony, probably would have to give up his services. Now, he did average 5 points per game in the series against the Cavs and had a few duds, a few games under, obviously, 5 points. Most of the games, I believe, were all under double digits in those 7 games. And when we were looking for scoring from anybody, it seemed like it wasn't going to come from anybody on the bench. It was going to come from Banchero, Franz, or Suggs. And that was just the way that the cookie crumbled. So I think at the end of the day, his stock is down. Nobody's really talking about him too much. But when he gets involved into a trade like this, I think we need to step back and reassess that his contract is still really good for the team. As a role player, I do believe that he can be a decent piece to a championship team. I don't think he could be the 4th best player, but 5th best player, I think now we're talking. I think now we're saying he's pretty darn good, pretty good. And for 3 years, $39 million, I can't state that enough. I think that this is going to start looking like one of the better contracts on this roster. Are you going to want to give that up if you can help it? I don't think so. At least not this year. Like I said, some parts of this deal are maybe just a little too soon. Now, let's get into kind of Wendell Carter Jr. and what exactly that could look like. Now, I've been a big proponent of saying that this guy could definitely get traded. I think that his role has taken a step back with the Orlando Magic. They re-signed all of the young big men, and for the most part, our center and power forward depth chart is kind of okay, even if we do trade or do make a trade and we don't get a center or power forward back for Wendell Carter Jr. I think Wendell Carter Jr.'s ceiling is similar to Cole Anthony's. He could be a role player on a championship team, but not much better. I don't know if he could be that 5th or 4th option on a championship team. I'd say 4th is probably pushing it. 5th might be right around where you are at with him. So is it going to be a deal breaker to keep him in a trade like this? No, I think you would then pull the trigger on Darius Garland. But I think at the end of the day, whenever you look at Wendell Carter Jr., his name has just been in too many trade packages, trade scenarios, and if I'm being just completely honest, he's the one name on here that I am not surprised, and I wouldn't even mind seeing go, because I do think that the value that they get back from the Cavs is worth it. But it should be mentioned that when we're talking about some of these trades, that the value can be all over the place. I say that Wendell Carter Jr. could get traded. He's averaging 11 points for us, so we'll be fine. But when we also give up Suggs and Cole Anthony, that's going to be too much, especially for Darius Garland, who's only been a one-time All-Star. Just yesterday, I talked about Brandon Ingram and his trade value, and there was a pretty big haul for that trade. And this same Bleacher Report article mentioned Miles Turner and Aaron Naismith as the package that the that the Pacers would give for Brandon Ingram. So there's a lot of different stuff going on. It's the NBA offseason. We don't know exactly how people are going to trade and what exactly they're going to do in that scenario, but we have plenty of time to figure it out, and a lot of these players, their value is going to fluctuate as the season goes on. But guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that the Orlando Magic should make a trade for an established point guard before giving Jalen Suggs the opportunity next year, because we're in such a win now mode? Or would you like to see Jalen Suggs in that role in the upcoming season? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time with more Orlando Magic basketball news.